What's up, curious youngsters? Surely when you don't understand how something works, you don't know why things happen, you simply ask questions. From normal questions like, what was the most absurd war in history? To slightly more interesting questions like, what is the reason why mosquitoes suck our blood? Mr. CurioCity. Some subscribers live asking interesting questions, which I feature in this video. That's why, and much more, these are 10 curious questions in 10 minutes one. Sebastian Jimenez Albites asks us, why do we get a bump when we hit our head? When we are children, we are constantly exploring and trying to learn new things, and many times we end up hurt or full of bumps after falling and hitting ourselves repeatedly. But why, when we hit our head, do we get these huge bumps? And why doesn't the same thing happen when we hit the rest of our body? Well, when we hit ourselves, the blood vessels under our skin usually get hurt, and there is a hemorrhage that is mostly absorbed by the muscles and the rest of our body. The problem is that in the head, we don't have muscles or fat that can absorb the blows like the rest of the body. The blood vessels suffer greater injury, causing more blood to branch off. And this large amount of blood can't go anywhere, as under the skin we only have the skull. It accumulates there with other bodily fluids, forming the well-known bump. Be more careful. Johnny 2. Karina Lopez Cruz asks us how our planets formed. We live on a planet and we know there are billions spinning around the universe. But how is it possible that a planet was formed? Among so much desolation and darkness as we see in space, there are various theories, but the most important one is known as the core accretion model, which suggests that the origin of everything is in the nebulae, which are large clouds of gas and dust that are in the universe, where the planets and stars are formed. The first thing that happens is that thanks to gravity, everything is attracted to a single point, compressing and increasing its temperature and density until a star is formed. Then around this, a large dust disk is left floating, where millions of molecules are going to spin and start collapsing with each other, forming larger bodies, thus managing to form planets like ours. If you asked, then yes. It's no coincidence that the planets closest to the sun are solid, and the furthest ones, like Jupiter, are made up of gases. When the sun forms, its solar wind expels lighter particles, that's like gases, farther into the universe, creating the known planetary distribution. 3. Diego Hernandez asks us what has been the most absurd war in all of history. When we think of war, images of the First and Second World War come to mind, and perhaps other events like the Vietnam War and others. And although no war can be justified in any way, there is always something that surpasses everything known. Today, we're engaged in history's most absurd war. In 1932, the Great Lemmus War erupted in Australia. The lemmus is an ostrich-like animal, which at that time was causing serious problems in the plantations and farms in eastern Australia. So, literally, a war was organized where thousands of soldiers armed themselves with machine guns and went hunting for all the animals they could. After a few weeks of combat, the troops withdrew and the lemmus invaded the area again months later. In response, soldiers returned with weapons and killed more lemmus, but after a few months, more reappeared. And this time, no more soldiers returned with more weapons. They simply withdrew, and incredibly enough, a defeat was declared against the Emu army. Don't attack me, Mr. Emu. 4. Ojerado Brajero asks us, how many liters of water do you have to drink to die from overhydration? We've always heard that we had to drink at least 2 liters of water a day for good health. However, fluids also come from other foods like fruits and vegetables, contrary to common belief. But the issue is that many people, after reading these recommendations, start drinking water as if there were no tomorrow. Warning: drinking too much water can be fatal. It's not drowning, but overhydrating your body to a dangerous level. Medical studies show that drinking more than 7 liters of water in a day can lead to serious health problems, known as water intoxication. As we know, the liquids we drink have to be processed by our kidneys. But the problem is that they have a limit and cannot work fast enough to remove the excess fluid from the body. And when this happens, we could say that the blood becomes too diluted and the levels of sodium, potassium, and other minerals in the bloodstream start to drop too low, which can cause multiple failures in our system, even leading to death. 5. Santiago Romero asks us, why does goosebumps occur? When we are cold, excited, or feel a bit scared, we get goosebumps. But why does this happen? This reaction, called piloerection, is a body reflex that causes the small muscles at the base of each hair follicle to contract and lift, thus each hair covering the skin. For animals, this reflex fluffs up their fur or feathers, allowing them to protect themselves from the cold and retain body heat. However, through evolution, humans have lost most of their body hair, making this feature less sensible. So we come to the other cause, fear. For instance, when an animal is frightened or anxious, its fur stands on end to give it a distinct appearance to its adversary. Lastly, there are psychological issues where our brain reacts differently to various emotions, such as getting goosebumps. What an interesting human body says. Salomon Zualaga asks us, how do energy drinks work? Humans only need water to quench their thirst, but maybe this is a bit boring. People have been creating different types of drinks throughout history. Some alcoholic, others fizzy, some isotonic, and some energy drinks. We'll focus on the last ones today. Energy drinks contain stimulants that are advertised to offer benefits to consumers. The possibility of ending fatigue and sleepiness, or also improving physical endurance and increasing our mental ability. And although many of the abilities that these drinks give us are quite exaggerated, we have to know that the main component they usually have is caffeine, which is a substance that acts on the nervous system, nullifying the neurotransmitters that are responsible for transmitting the sensation of sleepiness or fatigue. So it is true that they have substances that affect our nervous system. The low quantity of ingredients in each drink makes the effects nearly unnoticeable. Kevin Hernandez asks us, what was the first firearm in history? Humans are the most aggressive species on Earth, using their intelligence for years to develop superior weapons that give them an edge over other communities. Despite modern firearms being highly advanced and enabling a person to shoot thousands of bullets in mere minutes, in the past, things were slower and less efficient. The first records of firearms will take us to China, where in the year 1200, the Chinese already knew how to control and use gunpowder to launch projectiles against animals, or also, why not, against other people. The first cannons were simple bamboo canes, which were loaded with gunpowder and a projectile and were fired. After years of testing, increasingly advanced models were developed, which ended up leading us to have the weapons of today. Stay away from weapons. Timmy 8. What do mosquitoes do with our blood? Summer is one of the best times of the year, heat pool and lots of time outdoors. Unfortunately, these conditions are perfect for mosquitoes to visit us. And there's nothing more annoying than a group of mosquitoes buzzing in our ears at night while we try to sleep. And more than once when you got tired of these insects, surely you've asked yourself, why do they bite us and why do they steal our blood? Well, first of all, you have to know that only 6% of all mosquito species suck blood, as the rest feed on the nectar of flowers and fruits. And also, the ones that bite you are female mosquitoes. And there lies the big reason. Mosquitoes require blood to be able to finish developing their eggs with the minerals that our valuable red liquid has. Once they suck our blood, the eggs inside them move on to another stage. They are ready to be deposited in a puddle or damp area where they can turn into larvae and later annoying mosquitoes. 9. Fernan Eduardo asks us, why do insects die with their legs up? I'm sure that more than once you were walking around your house when you came across a dead cockroach or some other insect. Okay, so far so good, but have you noticed why most of the time the insects you find die with their legs up? The reason is very simple. Insects usually have quite large legs in relation to their body, and these tend to be very light. So when they die and their legs contract, they hinder their normal position and end up upside down. But this reaction of insects is usually seen even more when they die from poisoning and not from natural causes, since most insecticides affect the nervous system of these poor insects, which affects their movements and causes them spasms or muscle contractions. So when they lose coordination with such large legs, they lose stability and end up flipped over looking upwards. 10. How does anesthesia work? If you've had surgery or a cavity fixed at the dentist, You likely received an anesthesia injection. And if you're as curious as Mr. CurioCity, you surely wondered, how does this work? Well, anesthesia can be local or general. The simplest is local, which is applied to a specific area. It is responsible for blocking pain signals to our brain, so we don't feel anything. General anesthesia is more complex, administered through an injection into the bloodstream or inhaled medications using a mask. We are going to fall asleep and not feel absolutely anything for hours. The medications that are used are responsible for decreasing the nervous activity of the entire body. In addition, they block neuromuscular activity, causing a kind of paralysis throughout the body. Finally, it blocks the transmission of pain sensors. All of this makes our brain think that it is sleeping, but at the same time, it cannot wake up or move, even when we have people interacting with us. Which makes anesthesia very interesting, as it manages to keep the body working in its vital functions, but the rest of the body is almost dead. Before you go, comment your curious question for the next videos. And now, let me greet a few subscribers. First of all, a big greeting to Glotty YouTube. I owed him the greeting for a long time. Then another little greeting for Data Alejandro Quintero, and another big greeting for Quad. I also greet David Alberto Restituyo, Sterling Rodriguez, and a big greeting to Kleber. Lastly, I want to welcome Jair Garza, a new subscriber. Another greeting for Miguel de la Rubia. And the final greeting goes to Clemento Rialba's Crack. Now yes, leave your like, comment, everything, really everything you want. Do not forget to share the channel and videos with your friends. You're increasingly becoming Mr. CurioCity. Subscribe and click the bell to stay updated on new videos. I'm Mr. CurioCity.